What's up, Rebel Scum? Well, he's finally here. The Jumbo Sandtrooper has arrived, among other Jumbos, so there's going to be a lot of Jumbo reviews coming up for you guys, but I needed to start with the Jumbo Sandtrooper. Very excited about this guy when we saw him teased almost a year ago, I believe. We hadn't seen any finished production. We saw some prototypes at a couple shows, but now we have the finished version here, along with this weapon. So Diamond Select Toys, Gentle Giant, sent us this carded sample of the Sandtrooper here. Very excited about checking him out. Can't do a 360, he's just too big to get anywhere. But you can see here on the package, this is a new card back. This is a new figure. There was never a Kenner version of a Sandtrooper. The closest thing we had was that art from the, what was the Cantina Adventure, that art on the of the Sandtrooper on the back of the wall there of the outside of the Cantina. That was the closest thing we've seen to a Kenner Stormtrooper. So this is going to be their imagining of what a Kenner Stormtrooper would look like, or a vintage style Stormtrooper. So the card back here, they went with the card artwork of the Sandtrooper officer, as they're calling him here. And it's him with his gun as he was on his way to the docking bay with his troops behind him. So he has that orange pauldron there, and he has this really long blaster rifle. I forget what this one is specifically called. I recall it being a grenade launcher or something like that. But that one is featured here as well. On the back, we're going to have that artwork here of the Look Sir droid scene with the Sergeant Sandtrooper here and the Commander Sandtrooper as well. And then on the back at the bottom, we're going to get a look at some upcoming Jumbos. So we know about Lando. That was already announced. 8D8 is the Premier Guild exclusive, I believe, for next year. So that was already announced as well. Ahsoka is just hitting shelves now. So you can grab this one and we'll have a review of that soon as well. The Darth Vader Unmasked also started releasing, and this is a website exclusive. So this guy is available now. We'll have a review coming up of him as well. Boba Fett got pushed to next year, but he is forthcoming. This is based on the book of Boba Fett. We have Cy Snoodles and Droopy McCool. The first time we're seeing them any kind of packaging work on the back of the packaging, not their packaging. You can see her with her microphone and Droopy McCool with his microphone as well. We've seen the prototypes. We gave you guys an up-close and personal look at the prototypes in our New York Toy Fair videos. Please go check that out if you want to see them. No word yet how these are going to come packaged. They were tossing around putting them in one big box, doing individual card backs. The one big box idea, I love it because it's more faithful to the original. Might be a little impractical with the giant piano round keyboard thing, whatever that's called, that the Max Rebo is going to have in that set. So a little challenging to do giant packaging for that. We'll see what ends up happening. I think it's more likely going to be 3 card backs. Even the card back for Max Rebo is going to be difficult. So I'm really curious to see how they're going to do that. They still don't know how they're going to do that. So we haven't seen any production copies yet. But that's it. Everything back here is already announced. No surprises like we saw in the concept. What was that? Concept Luke, where we got a reveal of Concept Han on the back. So these are all upcoming though. 2 of these are hitting shelves now. They're just released. Lando and Boba Fett will be releasing earlier next year. We don't have a release window yet on the Max Rebo band. We're still looking. But I know you guys want to check this out, so we're just going to hop right in and check this guy out. All right, so I popped them off from the card, separated those little sticky tabs there, and I got my card back. And this is the thing I generally keep with the figures, is the card back, not the giant blister pack. I mean, I love it. It's just, I mean, how am I going to store that? You see how many Jumbos I have behind me. If you're wondering how many I have all of them. I don't have the variants, so I don't have like Brown Snake Yoda. I don't have Tiny Head Han, but I have pretty much every other Jumbo that is available. So including the droids one. So running out of space. So I could probably fit another 20 or so or 30 or so, but not if I have the clamshells. So if you're like me and you have limited space, or even if you have a lot of space, eventually you're going to run out. So we have our nice blaster here, and I'll give you guys a close-up of this as well. So you can see here in the close-up pic, that great detail of the large series blaster. I don't know what this is. I'm sorry. I forget. I used to know what this was called. If you do, please comment. Just save me the hassle trying to dig that out. True Kenner style here. I love it. It's just one color. just one long weapon. I think this is perfect, spot on for something that we would have seen back then. Not too much crazy detail, but just enough detail, and that I think fits in with a lot of the Kenner style weapons. So I appreciate that. Next up, we have our Sandtrooper here. I'm going to cut him loose from the card back. He's got a big wire holding up his waist. He's got some of these weird clear plastic tabby things holding in his legs here. So I'm going to have to cut all those. Let's see if there's a secret one that is eluding me here. Nope, I think that's it. That is it. Yep, flies right out. And here is our Sandtrooper. So I'm going to give you a nice little 360 pan. You can see they went with that classic Stormtrooper body in there. They didn't do any new molding on that as far as I can tell. And I'll grab another Stormtrooper in a moment. We'll have a close-up and I'll show you the two. What they did add is they added that orange pauldron on top of him here. And attached to that orange pauldron in the back is that classic Sandtrooper backpack that we've all come to know and love. I think they kept it in the style of Kenner by making it pretty much like only two colors, or it's primarily black with just some gray accents. If you look at most of the colors, there's not that many paint applications on a lot of Kenner figures, so this is kind of true to that paint. I do love that. Same with the pauldron, it's just one color, mostly black, and then just that orange tip on the end. So they look like they secured this on there after they put this on, and they didn't paint the little buckle straps here, and they shouldn't, because Kenner would not have done this either. So I think that detail is pretty good. I guess my only criticism would be that if Kenner did this, the pad would probably be molded onto the shoulder of the figure. This would probably be one solid piece. I haven't seen them do a lot of accessories like this, and that's up for debate. Because if you look at some, and I'm looking around the room at some of the previous ones, like I guess Bib Fortuna had the tunic on there, and I guess I don't know. Zuckuss might be a good example where they have the apparatus on there on top of his cloak. So there is precedent where Kenner had done some figures that had multiple pieces. The stamp on this is 84. So I guess you could argue that this was getting toward the end of the line, maybe even in the Power of the Force line. And at that point, they started doing a little bit more tooling on some of the characters, like Luke Stormtrooper, where he had an individual helmet to go with the character. Trying to think of other Power of the Force characters that had extra design to them. I want to say, characters like Yak Face, that wasn't really Power of the Force, but he had a lot of tooling on him. I'm thinking of looking around again to see what other characters they got. The Ewoks, a lot of the Ewoks that came out at that point in the Power of the Force line, they had like the hoods, the bow, and the satchel, and they had multiple different parts to go with them. So there was a lot of additional parts on there, so I could see the justification for it. I would like to see like a entirely molded Sandtrooper, which the pauldron molded onto his shoulder. That'd be pretty cool too. But there's nothing to really base this off of, so this is kind of new, and I think it's kind of fun that they did their own imagining of it. And like I said, there is precedent, like I was calling him Forlom, but he's Zuckuss, but he was Forlom in the old labeling. The Zuckuss body with the apparatus on top of him, on top of his cloak, so he had like a part like this sitting on top of him. So yeah. So I guess that works on that ground, but they didn't go crazy with paint applications or anything, so still keeping in that traditional look. And then I think the weapon was spot on. I think it really nailed it. So we'll try fitting it in the hand here. And this hand was designed to hold that E11 blaster rifle, but let's see, it should, yeah, it fits this as well. And I mean, as good as any of those Kenner handheld weapons for the small amount of time they did. Yeah, so this I think works pretty well to that respect. But yeah, I mean, I'm still extremely happy we have a Sandtrooper. We never got a Sandtrooper in that 3 3/4 line for Kenner. I feel like if they kept going, that was one they would have done, like eventually. Just such a cool character. He's one of my favorite characters. He's one of the earliest Black Series characters, if you remember. It was the Sandtrooper. I believe the orange was first, and then they did the black subsequently. Or maybe I got that backwards, but I thought the orange was in 2013. It was like number 1 or number 2 was the Sandtrooper. It was like the first or second figure in the Black Series line. Fun fact. Go back and check our archives if you don't believe me. So this is pretty cool to get him. And like I said, all we had was that artwork on the Cantina Adventure from that Sears exclusive set. of imagining what a Sandtrooper looked like. And now we have this version, so very awesome. Another fun fact, a while ago, Gentle Giant did do a cropped version of the Cantina Adventure. So you were able to get your see that Sandtrooper on there. Yeah, that kit, try tracking that down. I'm sure that's pretty expensive now. They did a couple cardboard play sets. They did that one, and the other one would be the purchase of the droids background piece that came with the droids 3-pack when you brought them as a set. And then, of course, they did the 12-back display of the first 12 of the line with the characters from the early bird artwork there. So those 3 are the only cardboard play sets, but they're pretty cool. I wish they would do the carbon freezing chamber play set. That is a fun one. It'd be massive with cardboard, but very cool. Maybe we'll get it one day when we get more Bespin characters. But anyway, that is the look at the Sandtrooper. Now we're going to come in a little closer. I'm going to go grab the first generation Stormtrooper that Gentle Giant did. We'll compare them side by side to see if they're pretty much lining up. All right, now we're looking at our Sandtroopers, not once, not twice, but thrice. I got 3 extra Stormtroopers to compare this model to. So we'll be taking a look. First up is our 77 based model of Stormtrooper. Now what you see here is the difference in the arm here. That band is a lot smaller than the banding on here. So it looks like they have a different arm on this version of this Stormtrooper here. He's got flatter knobs on the side as opposed to these round ones. Paint applications are a little bit different, and of course this head is pivoting as opposed to being molded to the body. The stamp, lastly, is 77, whereas the stamp on the new one is 84. So they definitely did not use the original Stormtrooper mold, so goodbye. Next up, we have the most recent release, and this is Han Stormtrooper. Has an 84 stamp, like this version here. However, you notice Han has a much higher sort of black rubber suit showing than this guy here. The head is a whole separate piece. The helmet does look very similar. I will give it that to this version of the helmet. It has the round nubs on there, but it has different paint applications. It has an extra black stripe here, so a little different on that respect. But I want to say the helmet is pretty close. I would venture to say that they used the mold from this helmet to make the head for the Sandtrooper, and it makes sense. This is their most recent release of a Stormtrooper body, so they took some elements over there. However, the body itself is still looking different. I mean, look at the arms. The arm bands don't exactly line up. Maybe a little bit. Maybe it's just I'm looking at it differently because they're painted differently. So maybe there's more black and a thinner stripe on this one. So it's quite possible they're using the arms from Han's Stormtrooper here in order to make this body. So that could be the case. Like I said, he's the newer mold. The body seems about roughly the same size. The plate itself, all the little nubs in the front there line up. It's just the legs are a little bit different. And that could just be because they did different paint applications. They left this white, they made this one black. That could be it, really. So I want to say the size of the legs, very similar too. So it is possible they used Han's Stormtrooper body to do the Sandtrooper in essence, and just kind of manufactured some kind of different element. Instead of keeping the head hollow, it's solid, and they mounted it on top of there. The only other Stormy I have here is Luke Stormtrooper, who is also stamped 1984. But the difference with this 84, it's a lot bigger than the 84 here. The legs, again, have that high rubber suit on them. But I don't think that these are the same legs. There's more spacing on this one that's more akin to the Han Jumbo Stormtrooper here. So, and again, this one was done a long time ago. There's definitely more space on the arm here than this version. It's a lot narrower. So this one is its own unique kind of thing here. And the helmet is way different. Yeah, I mean, it's way different, not just in paint applications. So I think, if anything, it looks like they used a lot of the tooling from the Han Stormtrooper here, which makes sense. It was the most recent release of a Stormtrooper, so they had that body mold and kind of transitioned it over. They might have done some unique molding here. I'm not sure. I'm just not seeing it. I'm seeing a lot of carryover from this model over to this Stormtrooper, and the legs, the arms, the body, even the helmet. It's sort of nailing all the same aspects of it. So they might have used the mold, just different materials, so it's less reflective than the Han one here. So I think that is the origin story of your Stormtrooper. But here he is, side by side, his fellow Stormtroopers here from a different unit, not from the Sand unit. But they look pretty good when you get a bunch of them together. I would love to get a bunch of these guys, and I would love to have different colored pauldrons. Now, I did hear that we might see some variant pauldrons. It's not like a chase variant. They might just be offered as different exclusives. We'll see. I did hear that. I didn't get specific details on it, but they mentioned something about that at I believe at Toy Fair. So we might see a black version and we might see a white version, and it's very easy for them to just produce another one with a different color. So we'll see in the coming year or so if we get some special edition versions where we get different pauldrons. That'd be fun just to build out your Sandtrooper crew. But that is your look at your Sandy compared to your other Stormtroopers. And that does it for another great jumbo. Love this Sandtrooper, absolutely love him. Stunning work on the weapon, I think, and the overall design of the character. They kept a lot of true elements to Kenner. I mean, could it be a little bit better if it was molded on in one piece? Sure. I think it would go more back to the 77 if he would have came out in that original line. But if he came out in the Power of the Force line, or after 1980 when they started getting a little bit more adventurous with tooling parts on top of parts, as independent parts, I think that it would 100% make sense that he would look like this. So if he came out in the Power of the Force line, yeah, I think he would have had a separate backpack sitting on top of him and a separate sort of pauldron, and they might have even reused the mold of the Stormtrooper and just squished this part on in between as a sort of a kit bash. So totally think that that's feasible. There is some precedent for it. And given that he's later in the line and not stamped 77, I think that adds to the authenticity of having a Sandtrooper that would have come out and looked like this. So either way, I think he's great. I think you're going to want him if you have your line, particularly if you have that Cantina Adventure set from Gentle Giant, which I made the title card image for this video, so you guys will get a chance to see that as well. But yeah, that is all for our look today at Jumbos. Next up, I think it's going to be Darth Vader Unmasked, and then Ahsoka, and then of course more. So come back for those. We're wrapping up our gift guide, so check that out. We're going to have a summary of all the different items we've been covering that we're going to be recommending for this year. Not all inclusive, but as much as we could get to cram in there to show you guys. We want to make sure we had a chance to actually get our hands on products if we're going to recommend it. We're not just blindly throwing out recommendations. I 100% recommend Jumbos. I love Jumbos. So stay tuned for that. We'll also be having our Rewind series continuing all the way through the rest of the year and beyond. So keep coming back for that, and plenty of more news, plenty of more reviews on rebelscum.com. Every day we got something for you guys, so keep tuning back for those. Like, subscribe, and follow as always, and stay vigilant, you Rebel Scum.